Ms. Rosenberg, in 2016, you wrote, and I quote, "Using sanctions to address non-nuclear concerns with Iran is distinct from oversight of the nuclear deal," end quote. Now, we had a nice conversation last week, and I recall, I think you confirmed that that is still your view, but I'd like to get it on record and out in the open here. And I think this is a yes or no question. I certainly hope so. And that is, do you still maintain and agree that terrorism sanctions on Iranian entities are not inherently inconsistent with the JCPOA?
Senator, thank you for the question, and thank you also for taking the time to speak with me prior to this hearing. I support the position that the United States must hold Iran accountable for its support for terrorism and its destabilization in the region. That is something that can occur outside of any nuclear deal should the United States re-enter it.
Okay, so I would take that as a yes. Mr. Nelson, you stressed the importance of fighting terrorism, so really I would ask you to provide hopefully a yes or no answer to the same question. Do you agree that terrorism sanctions on Iranian entities are not inherently inconsistent with the JCPOA?
I do.
Thank you. Now, earlier when I made my remarks, I highlighted a recent statement from an unnamed, quote, senior State Department official suggesting that terrorism sanctions imposed by the previous administration were done illegally and without any evidentiary basis. So first, for Ms. Rosenberg, I know you're a counselor to the Deputy Secretary of Treasury now. Again, I think this is a simple yes or no question. Are you personally aware of any evidence that those sanctions were imposed illegitimately?
No, Senator, I am not.
Okay. That being the case, I would be very grateful if you would commit to, within, say, 7 days of your confirmation, if you could confirm that these sanctions were in fact imposed legitimately. And Mr. Nelson, I would ask you to join in that effort. I just think it's extremely important when somebody maligns the character of the expert Treasury staff that went through the proper procedure, went through the process, and came to this conclusion. Their work should not be maligned this way, and I think your voices are important to affirm that. Next point. Nord Stream 2 AG is a company owned and operated by Russia's largest state-owned oil and gas company, Gazprom. Now, according to its own website, Nord Stream 2 AG is responsible, and I quote, for planning, construction, and subsequent operation of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, end quote. Now, the State Department has reported that Nord Stream 2 AG is using a Russian pipeline contractor, and I'll mispronounce the name, but I'll call it Koksohimtrans. And they're using this contract, essentially a subcontractor on this project. Now, it's notable because Koksohimtrans was sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury in 2016 for its involvement in Russia's invasion of Crimea. Now, all of this is important because under Section 228 of CATSA, Nord Stream 2 AG has to be sanctioned if it's facilitating a significant transaction with a sanctioned entity. And it clearly appears to be doing exactly that with Koksohimtrans. So, Ms. Rosenberg, my question for you, I know you're leading a systemic review of the Treasury sanction. Can you explain to us why Nord Stream 2 AG has not been sanctioned under CATSA, despite the clear language of that legislation requiring it?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to this issue, and I'd like to recognize the leadership from this committee that brought forward legislation, including authorities that you're referencing here, and CATSA, as well as other ones related to Nord Stream 2. I share a deep concern about Russia's potential to destabilize energy security in Europe, and particularly to target Ukraine if there is a cessation of natural gas there, facilitated by additional flow of gas through the Nord Stream pipeline. I am not in the position to have examined the facts and circumstances about whether there's a the entity that you've named would meet criteria or threshold for designation. But if I'm confirmed, I can commit to you that I would look into that and would gladly come and follow up with you about that question.
So I guess it's my same point as last time. I would appreciate if you would reply in writing, if both of you would reply to this question, because my reading of the statute is very straightforward. It requires the sanctioning. The sanction can then subsequently be waived, but there's a process that we need to go through, and it involves Congress, and it's important. I do have one other quick question, Mr. Chairman, if I could, and that is, in recent months, Iranian oil shipments to China has, by all accounts, gone through the roof. It could be approximately 600,000 barrels per day at this point. By all accounts, China's been openly violating U.S. law with impunity because they're importing illicit Iranian oil. So my question to both of you, first, do you acknowledge that it is a problem to have China flagrantly violating our sanctions law? And isn't it the case that if adversaries perceive that the U.S. is unwilling to enforce our own sanctions, then they're going to violate the sanctions?
Senator, obviously I'm not in the government. I would welcome the opportunity, if I'm confirmed, to be briefed on this incredibly important issue, but predicate, assuming there are violations, then I would agree we need to act appropriately.
Senator, I would certainly agree that violating U.S. sanctions law is a problem and something that, if I were to be confirmed, would be something I would look into and seek to address. Furthermore, that the credibility and strength of U.S. sanctions depends on their effective implementation and enforcement.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for your indulgence. And I'm going to send both of you a QFR in writing about a recent Financial Action Task Force guidance involving cryptocurrencies and personal digital assets. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.